Hello, friends, and welcome into Pittsburgh Steelers Talk. I am Tom Downey. Some trade ideas from Fansided on tap for today's show. But before we get into that, we are just 25 subscribers away from 15K. I know we can get there on today's video because I know a lot more than just 25 of you are going to watch today's show but are not subscribed. So if you want free Steelers videos pretty much every single day from camp, preseason, regular season, and off-season, hit that big red button and subscribe right now. All right, the 5 trade ideas from Fansided begin with well, you guys knew this one was going to be on there, right? Trading away Mason Rudolph to the surprise of, I think, nobody at this point. The Steelers have been linked speculatively about, hey, could they trade away Mason Rudolph for quite a while now? We'll make a note of the money to begin here. The team saves $3 million with a trade of Mason Rudolph, which is exactly what a new team, whether it's the Packers or somebody else, whoever acquires Mason Rudolph, would owe him after they make that trade. So there are some noteworthy savings. Now, Fansided did not put together trade ideas, actually, so I'll do that for them. Here's my trade package for Mason Rudolph. A 6th-round pick goes to the Steelers in exchange for Rudolph going to the Denver Broncos, who have not much at the backup quarterback position. And I do think a 6th-round pick is maybe the most realistic get. I know that Josh Dobbs once got a 5th-rounder back, and maybe that's the true absolute ceiling. But I think 6th is much more manageable and realistic because we've seen Mason Rudolph get a chance as a starting quarterback in the NFL, and it's been not the best overall in his career. The production has not been very good. Statistically, 61.5% from a completion percentage, 2,066 yards in his 10 career starts, and the most troubling number there, 16 touchdowns against a meager 11 interceptions. That's far too close to 1-to-1. Yes, he's a former 3rd-round pick, but at this point, we know who he is, and he's not the guy for any team. He is a backup at best, and frankly, probably a pretty average one. The scenario to where it could make sense for a trade, probably closer to the end of the preseason, if Kenny Pickett does indeed emerge as the quarterback 2 behind Mitchell Trubisky, or even better if Pickett somehow emerges as starter, which seems a bit unlikely. In that scenario, there's Trubisky, there's Pickett, and there's just not a major need at that point for Mason Rudolph to be the somewhat high-paid number 3 QB. In that scenario, they ship him off to the highest bidder. So do you want to trade away Mason Rudolph? This is going to be our pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad break comes here on YouTube, it's actually perfect timing. Head down to the pinned comment, type in Y for yes, you want to trade him, or N for no, you do not. Number 2 is Clelin Ferrell, as the Steelers have been linked to us several times to Ferrell because the Raiders are down to move on from him, I think, and money is a large part of that. The Steelers, or the Raiders, would save $4.77 million in the event they trade away Ferrell. That is exactly what the Steelers would then owe him. 1 year, $4.77 million. I will make note that that salary is guaranteed. The Raiders cannot cut him. So despite being a former 1st-round pick, the money's fairly significant. I think the Raiders, if they do want to move on from Ferrell, would be happy to take a late day 3 pick just to get that contract off the books and save some money. So my trade idea, very cheap for a former top 5 pick. Clelin Ferrell to the Steelers in exchange for a 2023 6th-round pick. The reasoning why he's so cheap? Well, it's pretty straightforward. He hasn't been good in the NFL. 32 career games in his time in Oakland/Las Vegas. 11 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. The tackle numbers are, of course, higher because more games played. But if I had told you, hey, Ferrell gets 11 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks in year 1, you would have went, wow, okay, pretty solid start to his career. Hasn't been 1 year. It's been all of them. Now, from a Steelers needs perspective, Ferrell would probably play edge rusher. They don't have he's not a 5 technique defensive end. Maybe reduce him inside into some 3 technique on obvious 3rd downs, but I think he'd play outside linebacker. He is a bit of a tweener for the Steelers scheme, and I think that's a big factor as to why I don't anticipate a trade of Ferrell. But edge, that other outside linebacker spot, edge 3-ish, edge 4-ish, behind the dynamic duo of Watt and Highsmith, is something the Steelers could consider pursuing. Now, these ideas are from Fansided, but I want to hear from you guys too. Name a trade that you guys want to make. Could be trading for a player, trading away a player, could even just be a general position you want to go out and acquire. Let me know what you're thinking right now in the comments section. Number 3, trading away Diontae Johnson. This one also maybe not the biggest surprise out there. There were 3 trade targets and 2 trade candidates on this list from Fansided. So we know the 2 trade candidates. That is Mason Rudolph and Diontae Johnson. I want you guys in the comments section right now to pick one to trade away. Who would you rather dump if you ran the Steelers? Type in MR for Mason Rudolph, or you can type in DJ for Diontae Johnson. From a contract perspective, it's a little bit almost cheating. You save $2.79 million with a trade. The new team owes him that, although it would come with the assumption of you're also going to pay that receiver a significant amount of money because Johnson's in the last year of his deal and he probably wants upwards of $20 million. I do think that would bring down the value a little bit. I went back and forth on the true trade value and the idea for Diontae Johnson. I got him going to the Packers because their receiving core is bad, even if Christian Watson steps up in year 1. Second round pick and a conditional day 3 pick, so maybe it's a 4th, maybe it's a 5th. I thought about an outright first rounder for Diontae Johnson because Marquise Brown went for a first rounder. But it's also in July/August. It'd be a later trade. I think that brings down the value a little bit. And I don't think he's the same caliber of an A.J. Brown went for a first and a 3rd. So I don't think you'd get a first, but maybe you could. And that's because Johnson's gotten better each and every single year of his career. 2019 to 2020 to 2018. More catches, more yards, more touchdowns. That type of growth is important and significant. It signifies the type of player who is on an upward arc for his career. Pittsburgh is in good shape, I think, at wide receiver. Chase Claypool, George Pickens, Calvin Austin. If you do trade away Diontae Johnson, I think could be a pretty good trio of young receivers. Now, it's banking on 2 rookies, which is always dicey, and someone in Claypool who has been, we'll call it up and down so far in his NFL career. Now, we have mentioned this deal for you guys in the past, the T-shirt combo pack. It is still available with our friends over at Fanatics. 2 T-shirts, $30 combined, not individual, combined. You're not going to find a better deal from Fanatics. So get over there today at chatsports.com/PIT combo. That's Pit combo, right? Check the comment section and the description of today's video. That link is in there. So all you have to do is click and go shop at chatsports.com/Pit combo. All right, back to the trade targets here. Trading for Phillip Lindsay, the former Texans, now Colts running back who's bounced around. He was with Denver too, bounced around so far in his NFL career. I was a bit surprised to see Lindsay make this list because the Steelers could have signed him not that long ago. The Colts ended up nabbing him on a very cheap vetman deal with next to nothing guaranteed. The Colts saved $970,000 with a trade. The Steelers would then owe him $1.1 million. That does include, by the way, a not guaranteed until week 1 roster bonus that's tied into him making the team, obviously. But in this scenario, trade for him, he's going to make it. From a value perspective, basically free. And I almost went 2024 7th round pick, and maybe I should have, because the Steelers, if they were going to trade for someone like Lindsay, who's at the bottom of a roster right now, he's the 3rd back at best in Indy, you're not giving up premium capital for those guys because they're not valuable at that point. Lindsay, in his first 2 years, was special in Denver. The undrafted free agent runs for 1,000 yards. He was balling. Then his efficiency took a pretty big hit in 2019. 2020, he fell out of favor with the regime. And then this past year, played for the Miami Dolphins briefly. He has just bounced around and not been a reliable piece. The shelf life of backs is very short in the NFL. Shockingly short for Phillip Lindsay, I would suspect. But I do think you can make a pretty decent argument he's better than the likes of Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, Trey Edmonds. We'll see about those UDFAs, Durant and Warren, if they can make a splash in camp in the preseason. But we've done enough mailbags to know that you, like me, are like, I don't know if the running back depth's all that great. So it does make sense to at least consider that position, whether it's roster cuts or trade right before roster cuts. So when it comes to a trade in general, Will the Steelers make a trade before the regular season? Type in 1 for yes or type in 0 for no. Make your predictions for me right now in the comment section. Trade idea number 5 then is trading for Laviska Shenault, the Jags wide receiver, who has been linked many a time in trade ideas and speculation, and I get it. Former early second-round pick, dynamic player at Colorado. We'll go more in depth on him, but we do know the 3 trade targets now from the Fansided list. So, who would you rather have? Type in LS for Laviska Shenault, type in PL for Phillip, Lindsay, the now Colts running back, or type in CF for Clelin, Ferrell. Of those 3, if you had to trade for one, who would you rather it be? Sound off for me right now in the comment section. Shenault's an interesting piece. He's not very expensive. 2 years, $2.97 million if the Steelers were to go trade for him. The cap savings with said trade would be $1.31 million for the Jacksonville Jags. I don't think he'd be very expensive, however. In fact, my trade idea is just a 5th-round pick is all the Steelers would have to give up to acquire Shenault in that deal. The reasoning is he hasn't been that good. I know that former early-round pick, I get it. The production in 2021 took a very sharp drop-off. He went more targets, more yards, but barely fewer yards, and most concerningly, touchdown drop ratio went from 5 to 3, all these numbers per Pro Football Reference, by the way, to 0 and 8. I've seen fans people go, we got to get Shenault the ball. And I'm like, they tried to. He couldn't catch it. And that's a huge concern for a team that in Jacksonville needs better hands. And I'm not sure how big of a role he'll play because Christian Kirk will get some slot reps there in Jacksonville. In Pittsburgh, meanwhile, I kind of want to see what Calvin Austin can do. So I think Shenault only makes sense if you were to go trade away a Diontae Johnson. Otherwise, I think the team has enough at the wide receiver spot. If you have not already, please hit that big red button and subscribe right here on Steelers Talk for more free videos.